have that, then the marriage is in trouble. It doesn't mean, so Dr. Gottman, he says that 94% of the time when a couple does not have admiration and fondness, that it is a determining factor that their marriage won't last. It'll be a divorce, end in a divorce. Now, we know that there's nothing too hard for God. So it doesn't mean that has to be the end result. It doesn't have to be the end result. You can always change. But how do you change? You change when you get good information and when you start applying it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said something about being liked in your relationship, because my mother told me, she's passed on now, but a long time ago, I remember when I was a kid, she said you never want to get to a point in your marriage where you don't like your spouse. You can love them, but you don't ever want to get to where you don't like them.
I agree. I think, and on the flip side of that is the most important thing in a relationship or a marriage is friendship. Some of the most strongest and healthiest marriages have a very solid friendship between the couple. And I think it's important from a positive standpoint, is being able to look at your spouse, your relationship as a whole, in a positive framework, because it really guides everything that you do, say, and how you feel about the person.
It sure does. So don't get us wrong, because there are some times in marriage, even with the healthiest couples, where at one moment they might not like their spouse. I don't like you right now. You're not my friend. But they don't stay there. That's not a season that they dwell in. And they don't, because they're still fondness and admiration, because it's something that they're consistently depositing into each other. So through the flaws and the irritation, they're still able to, even in that moment where, you got on my nerves, I just don't like you right now, they still are able to survive, because they're not getting stuck in that phase of not liking or not admiring.
Now, our director touched on this last week. When I was married, back in the last millennium, okay, one day we weren't even having heated fellowship, but my wife said to me, she said, "I don't like you today." And I said, "Oh, we can say that to each other?" She said, "No, I can say that to you, but you can't say that to me." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's how it works." But yeah, you do have moments where you don't like your spouse, but I'm actually glad that she said that, because it caused me to take some inventory of myself at that moment.
And say, why? Why doesn't she like me?
I didn't go that far with it.
Oh.
Yeah, I think one of the things about, and we tell couples this all the time, is healthy couples argue, and that doesn't determine the health or the how successful your relationship would be. It has more to do with how you resolve these conflicts that determine the success or the happiness in your marriage.
And your mindset. Where is your mind at? So when we talk about fondness and admiration and how to nurture, we're going to first talk about your mindset, because your mindset got to be right. As a man thinketh, so is he. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things we always talk to couples about is, from a mindset perspective, is having a sentimental override. And basically, that is when you're looking at the person from worst case scenario. And a lot of times when there is a lot of conflict that's unresolved in the marriage, that you don't have a sense of hope. And you have a tendency to look at everything unfavorably, and it causes you to behave, to act, to anticipate things from that negative perspective. And a lot of times you doom a conversation before it even starts, because of the negative connotation that you've already meditated on for some time.
Right. So as you had you heard Dee say you can have a sentimental override? There's a negative and there's a positive. The positive is positive sentimental overrides. That's when you are constantly, giving your spouse the benefit of the doubt. You're looking at them in a favorable way before you look at them in a negative way. And so one of the things to nurture fondness and admiration is positivity breeds positivity. And we've heard that concept, but that is really true. What you think, you're going to react and respond based on that. And so when we have we as human beings have a, what's the word? We have a tendency to, when we think of something, especially if it's negative, we dwell on it. And then we fuel it by even more negative experiences. Yes. And then because of that, now you act on it. Well, saying for a couple to be able to nurture fondness and admiration, what we're saying is to constantly think about the positives. Even if your spouse does something that was negative to offend you, go back and think about some positive things. Because if you think about some positive things, that will motivate you to go into the resolve mode where, hey, let's work this out. Okay, it was just a misunderstanding. How can we do things right?
Hey, we have a comment from Charlene Logan from the LA Click. Hello, Charlene. How are you doing today? If we could switch gears here just momentarily and then resume our regularly scheduled program. Charlene says, what are the different stages in marriage? Here we go.
What are the, well, I can tell you number one. Number one is what you hear them call the crush or the puppy love stage. Or the honeymoon stage. And,
Could that also be associated with infatuation?
Yes.
Okay.
Psychologists call it the liminence reaction, and all that's saying is, when you think of somebody who eats chocolate and they have those, they say, dark chocolate gives you those,
brings off those endorphins,
those
feel good.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm in love. I want to.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Well, that happens in the first stages of marriage because the person is just looking at all of the newness. They're looking at, I really love this person. We're spending so much time together because, this is just part of the season of our marriage. Well, the thing that, and I'm going to go to this next stage, but the thing that I would say in that is that's very important to understand that that's where you are. But at the time of understanding, that's when you have to build fondness and admiration, because that stage is only temporary. That's short term. So if you don't develop fondness and admiration during that stage, then when you get to the next stage, it's going to be harder for you during times of conflict for you to bounce back. Because now you're wondering, well, why am I not having butterflies? Why am I, not anxious to see you and feeling all this gushy stuff? Well, because you're not honeymooners anymore. You've gotten to know each other better. You're starting to see the real person and their habits.
You're dealing with reality.
Yes. Oh, I guess you want me to keep on?
Yeah.
Before you go any further,
okay.
Corinthia, Denise Dixie says hey to Cher and Demetris. And she even goes on to say, hey Dallas, thanks for going live. It's a pleasure. We do it for you, Corinthia. Okay. Just for you.
She's just on your feet now.
I miss Corinthia. She is so
Consuelo
sweet.
says hello too. Consuelo Meeks. Hey, Dallas.
Hi. Definitely.
Kevin calls it being in the neutral.
Being in the neutral, being married, that's another terminology of it, being freshly married. So the next stage would be a stage, and then I guess we'll go with the stage. So the next stage is when we call comfortable stage. It's just, we pick up doing everything is business as usual. We've created a system, now we're in the routine of things, so we're comfortable with each other. We're just going to keep it moving and just continue to operate in a normal day-to-day routine as a husband and wife and as a family. In that stage, that's a good stage to be in. However, what's not good is sometimes we get too comfortable with each other, we forget to date. We forget to spend that one-on-one quality time together.
And do you also take your mate for granted when you hit that comfortable spot?
Absolutely. You do. You take your mate for granted
I'm
because
getting bonus points, right?
you take your mate for granted. And so I would say this stage is just a stage that is mostly longevity. Then what happens is you come to us, and here, I know we can't, because in stages, I look at it as seasons too. You're going to go, depending on where you are and how you respond in your marriage, you are going to go through different seasons or different stages. And even if you're in that one comfortable stage, that does not mean that at some point you might go back to that, honeymoon stage, especially if a child comes so, these stages can change. It's not something that is a permanent stage. Okay. Then the last one, of course, is the, empty nesters. It's the stage where we have gotten all the children out, we have settled, we're either retired, we're, have gotten to this place where we're back to it's just me and you. And that's...
Just me and you. Right.
What are you going to say, D, about empty nesters? Yeah, I'm throwing you there.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
I don't have nothing to say about empty nesters. No, I wanted to really touch on the seasons. It's basically the same as stages, but you think about springtime. It's warm days, but there are some cold days. So we may be on one accord and moving and grooving, but every once in a while we do have hiccups.
Now, equating them with the seasons, as you stated, spring, should there be a spring cleaning in the marriage?
I like that. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I do. I like that, really. When we talk to couples, we always talk to them about...
take that mic.
We always talk to them about relationship check-ins. And that would be, to me, the cleanup stage. You always constantly should go back to your spouse and check in. Let's check in. Let's evaluate where we are. Let's evaluate things that you are happy with what I'm doing for you and things that I need to grow in. So, yes, I would call that spring cleaning, but it's just not in spring. That should be something that's going on consistently.
Well, I just used the terminology that spring is
cleaning.
About the season.
Yeah. No, something good to ask your spouse is, is there any areas that I can improve on? I think that's really that type of openness in our communication and transparency does wonders for a relationship, because you may not see yourself kind of sliding or slipping off. And your spouse can, get you back on track. Well, you haven't told me you love me in a while, or we haven't went on a date. That way we can course correct immediately before things, get out of hand.
Okay, I have an ADHD moment. I just thought about what you said. Kuwana Meeks. That's Candy. Hi, Candy. Sorry.
No, this Consuela Meeks. But she's probably related to Candy, so that's still those two. But you're talking about...
Right? Okay.
You made mention of
yes.
asking your spouse, are there things that I could modify or whatever. I'm not attached or even looked upon right now, but I had that same conversation with my son, and I asked him, I said, is there anything about Dad that really irks you, or is there something about me? And I had to tell him, there's absolutely nothing that's going to happen to you, but I just wanted to take inventory for myself. And then he made me aware of a few things, and I was like, wow. So I started working on those things. And when I put them into effect, he then asked me one time, he said, well, why aren't you doing blah, blah, blah? I said, well, you made mention that kind of irks you, or so I'm respecting it. He's like, well, no, I didn't mean it like that. I said, well, I just took it as if you did, because I value our relationship. Yeah, okay, cool.
2 points for Dad over there.
No, but that's important. Because you should do that in all relationships. I mean, even when you have friends, you should be able to have those kind of conversations.
Wow, I never even thought about it for pertaining to friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, the people that are closer to you, they meet your most basic needs that you have for a friendship level relationship.
Okay, I have another question. Why would you concern yourself with how a friend looks at you versus a mate or a potential person that you're trying to get with?
Well, I think it's, every relationship has its place. And in these different types of relationships, there are specific needs that you have from the person, whether it's a mate, whether it's a friend, whether it's a spouse, a child or a parent. So you have those relationships, and in all of those, you have specific needs that you're requiring or you're desiring from them, which, determines the closeness of that relationship.
And it impacts you as an individual. It impacts you in regards to how you respond to other relationships because it shapes you.
Yeah, I think of, the closest people to me, they enjoy crab legs and fishing. When I was younger, my closest friends all enjoyed playing video games. So times change, but as you grow, and even with my wife, there are things that I desire that she desires, that when we're meeting those things, we are very close. which would lead me to the summer stage or summer season, and that's when we're both really actively, intentionally, purposely meeting each other's needs, and we want to do it, and we're eager to do it, and we're also doing what we can to avoid causing unhappiness in the other.
Going into a winter stage.
Will that be the hot and sizzling stage?
Hot and sizzling, active, active enjoyment. One of the things Demetris said too, and I'm going to speak back to the nurturing and fondness and admiration. Being there for your spouse, especially in the time where they might be going through some changes,
Right.
or just going through a season in their life where they're feeling pressed. Ooh. It's important to be there because that helps them to be able to make sure that they weather the storm in the summer, and it nurtures the relationship because then their spouse understands that they really admire me. They're there for me, so that really reinforces that they like me because they are so concerned about making sure that I don't stay down when I'm feeling down.
Getting back to the friendships or the relationships we have with friends now, it didn't occur to me until this conversation. I guess unbeknownst to me, regularly check in with Ray J. And I'll say, how are you feeling today? What's going on, blah, 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 whatever. Because that communication is very necessary to keep the chemistry that we have going here on the show. Because I know one thing that our average listener will say, you guys have great chemistry on the show. But they don't realize I'm not as a mate, but as a friend, or as her show husband, as we like to tease each other. She's my swipey, my show wife. But I will regularly check in with her. No, seriously, because if she's having a down day, like yesterday was a down day, she was in a lot of pain. Well, I know, okay, then I'm going to probably need to carry the show more so, or put it on my shoulders. But like today, there may have probably been the same thing, but her disposition was different. So then I know, okay, I can pretty much gauge how I need to either put it in overdrive, or I can sit back and we can both coast. Or, for example, like our show that happened on Tuesday, which the flow of the show was not supposed to go that way, but it filled up the entire 2 hours just based off of a conversation. So I'm glad you guys made mention of that.
Yeah, and even in a friendship relationship, there is fondness and admiration that is built and broken down, even on that level. So I would.
I don't think we could do the show together if we weren't fond of each other. What do you think?
Yeah, you think about it. Think about in a work setting. Your coworkers, ones that you're not very fond of. There could be tension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the ones that I do care about Johnny. I might even put the little money in his birthday card. When they pass it around for everybody to sign, because there's a level of fondness and admiration there. So, in yours and Ray's friendship, you guys are building that, and it's very strong, and it helps you guys to do the things that you have to do in far as a working relationship.
Which is very important.
Right.
Well, I think longevity has a lot to do with it because we're nearly 30 years strong.
Yeah.
So we have been in a friendship longer than we've been married when we were married to other people.
Yeah.
Let me say that.
Correct that.
To other people. So at this point, yeah, we know how to read each other without even having to say anything.
Okay.
You know,
You were about to say something.
yeah. Oh, Corinthia, Denise Dixie, CD double. I'm going to call her that. She says, yes, check in. It means a lot. And author Sanford McCullough, he says this is good stuff that we're discussing here. But it is very key that persons or personnel that you work with, if you have a very good rapport with them, because, like I said, once again, I never really thought about these things until this conversation, but there are certain individuals who work for me. Well, actually, everyone that works for me, we have a fantastic relationship. And I, at times, find myself going above and beyond just to show them my appreciation. And then there are individuals, like, for example, a situation happened yesterday where I was in a conversation with another supervisor, and then there was a regular worker there who I really did not care for. And when I got that person by himself, I said, hey, from now on, do not have that person present when you need to talk to me about anything. And well, he knows the backdrop on that, and that individual does as well. But I don't go out of my way to show disrespect or anything of that nature like that. But just like you said, there are certain people that you care for and ones you don't really have particular care for. And I still show respect. But I'm like, you know, I don't need that in my life right now.
Right. The one thing I like that you said is being able to go beyond and over and beyond. Because I know for me, I sometimes I have a tendency to withdraw. Especially I'm in a season where I'm in winter. I'm just going through. And when I have someone who goes over and beyond to reach out, then that helps me in the season to be able to know that I'm still loved. And there's been a lot of times, even in friendships and with Demetris, where I have been at my lowest and I just withdraw. And I would get a text to say, you know, hey, give me a word right on time, and just let me know that they're thinking about me. That helps the process. When Demetris sees that I am in a place where I might get quiet, and he is in tune to jump right on in to go over and beyond to be able to encourage me and to be able to, you know, say jokes and tell me how much he loves me. So
that's because
that
he's fond of you.
That is. That's
He
because
admires
he is fond of me. He admires
Look
me.
at that. Hey, 24 of y'all here, you are listening to the first couple of counseling on Discussions with Dallas, live with Ray J, Demetris, that's him, and Cher Williams, with the Christian Psychological Family Services.
Yay!
9378 Olive Boulevard Suite. That's ST106. Okay. I was 63132. I'm going to call. Please help me out here. 314.
567-4994.
4994. Okay, great. We were discussing the admiration and fondness in relationships and marriages.
And how to nurture it.
How
So
to nurture
we
it.
talked about the first one is positivity breeds positivity. And so we were saying it's your thought process to make sure that you have the right mindset in regards to being able to look at your spouse in a positive light so that you can continue to have that admiration and that fondness. So the second one to build fondness and admiration is to play.
Wow.
Hold on, before you jump into that,
Okay.
I want to touch on one quick thing as far as your mindset. How important it is. We talked about being positive and thinking positively about your marriage. I think about from a biblical perspective. You know, the Bible talks about what we should think on. You know, things that are good, love you, report, have virtue, and what that does is it provides you physically with a jump start to dealing with conflict, because one of the things I talk to couples about, when you have that negative persona or a negative thought process as far as your mate is concerned, there are times when you pretty much will have an argument in your own mind because you're anticipating that they're going to bring something negative. So, for example, your spouse say, "Hey, I need to talk to you when I get home." So it takes them, say, 15 minutes to get home. So over the course of that 15 minutes, you're thinking about all the negative things that could possibly happen.
And you're strategizing too, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
All of the hypothetical.
yeah. So when they get home, you already got your boxing gloves on. You got your gun.
Listen.
Yeah.
That's what
Everything
you
is locked and loaded and ready, anticipating something negative. And a lot of times, the conversation, it is doomed from the start because of that. So I just wanted to touch on that piece of mindset and being positive and having hope and thinking the best of your spouse in any given situation, because it really helps.
So can we go to the second one? Okay. So we've heard of all work, no play leaves what? I mean, have you heard that?
Somebody
Johnny's got to cook that evening.
Leave somebody a dull boy or a dull girl. So one of the things with establishing fondness and admiration is being able to play. When we say play, basically we're talking about enjoying each other. You know, dating, spending time together in each other's presence. That's where the PT, what we call pillow talk time, or QT, what we call quality time, is very vital, because we have to, in order to fuel fondness and admiration, you have to have a place where you can have fun with your spouse. You got to be able to, laugh and joke and want to spend time with them.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And I think two areas jump out to me. Two things. Number one, you want to create things that you do that you both enjoy, activities that you both enjoy.
I'm with you now.
Right.
Ritualistic connection.
Right. So whether it's going to a certain place or doing a certain thing that we both enjoy, that it creates that camaraderie that all relationships need. Also, the number two thing is you want to develop interest in something that your spouse truly enjoys that you may not enjoy as much, because that shows value to your spouse and concern to them that you are invested in them.
Right, I was about to say, you were investing. Go ahead.
So can I bring this up?
Please do.
This was funny. So Demetris is watching Tarzan on Discovery Channel, and I'm just like, I was like, can I change this? Because I was not interested in Tarzan. He was like,
You mean the new Tarzan?
No,
it's a reality show.
It's a reality show.
And they
What
had
network was that
like
on?
7
It's like on Discovery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they had 7
People,
people, and they're competing. They have to go through these. They take them to these islands, and they have to go through these obstacle courses. I mean,
Another Survivor? Millennium?
No. Well, it's
more like a obstacle course.
a lot of strength and endurance.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
getting tired.
Yeah.
From watching?
Oh yeah, they all in the jungle and doing all these things.
So my point to bring it up was that when I asked Demetris to be able that it's okay if I turn the TV, and he was like, yeah, I don't care. I'm starting to watch it.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Hey, you're on live caller with Dallas in the first couple of counseling. Demetris and Cher. Caller, you're on. Hold on 1 second. Jay didn't really miss me, because I definitely didn't miss him. But anyway, go right there.
So
When it was politically
what I
false.
found out was just me being disinterested. I was like, well, this is something he's gonna watch. I'm gonna watch. So what was funny was what turned out. This Joker is snoring. And I'm all into it. Like, I can't wait till next Wednesday. So it is important, really, to find an interest, because when I was disinterested, I turned around and became interested, and it just some time. I didn't give up prematurely. I was like, whatever. No, I did something that he was interested in, so I gave it a chance, and then ended up liking it.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you said that, because it is very important that you are open, because a lot of times people just will shut something down an idea or a thought or something that their spouse is interested in because, well, this is not me. I can't do this. And they don't even give theirself a chance to really know if it's something that they will enjoy. And a lot of times, even with us, a lot of things that I'm hesitant to do in the beginning, as long as I follow through with it, majority of the time I find that I do enjoy the activity or the show that my wife is.
Except for one.
Oh yeah, except for one. She likes to watch paranormal type shows. I'm not into that. No. Now I will watch it if she just wants to watch it, but it's not something that I'm into.
But he bounces it out. So, more so, we have a lot of shows that we do watch together and we enjoy together, more so than the less of not liking that show.
I found this out after I divorced, that whenever my wife and I would watch, my ex and I would watch Good Times or The Brady Bunch and Little House on the Prairie. Okay, first of all, I absolutely hated Little House on the Prairie. I can't even tell you why. I just hated it. So the entire time, I would just unleash a tongue lashing on Laura, her sister, the entire cast. And I would just, on Brady Bunch, I would just destroy Bobby and Peter and Greg, all of them. And then when Good Times would come on, I'm basically doing the same thing. Well, I find out from her after we were divorced, she said, you know what? She said, I really looked forward to watching certain shows with you. I said, why is that? She said, just your commentary alone. But see, she never said that to me while we were married, because I probably would have turned up and, had a production and everything. But yeah, so you need to communicate.
Yeah, you do have to be careful with that, though, because you lose all of the brownie points, per se, that you do accrue for doing something if you do it reluctantly, and you make the experience unenjoyable for your spouse. So one of the things I do say, if you decide that you're going to do something that they enjoy that you might not enjoy, do it with a smile. Because you only make it worse. Well, I'm just doing it, but I'm going to be a grumpy old person about it, because you ruin it for them. So you would have been better off just saying, no, this is not something I want to do.
And when we first got married, other than my experience with wrestling at the Chase way back in the day, wrestling was not something that I would even look forward to watching. And her and her cousin were just avid WWF fans. And so I'm watching, and I'm going into I'm destroying each and every one of these characters just to let you know why I'm not going to watch this. But as I got more and more, every Monday night she was glued in front of, Raw. Mm-hmm. I became a fan of her. Well, actually, because of The Rock and then some of the other characters. And his infomercials were just, stellar. But because I took that time to persevere with her, it actually blossomed into something that I looked forward to on Monday nights. And then secretly, in my mind, it gave us time to spend with one another, some quality time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting because, like, when we first met, she got me I never knew nothing about the stories. And she got me into
soap operas.
Right, we was watching Days of Our Life.
She got me into Days of Our Lives.
Was that NBC or what was that?
I don't remember.
Oh, wow.
I knew I was hooked.
Really?
She wasn't there. And I'm like, hey, if you ain't coming, I'm going to watch it. Right. And
I was a General Hospital and All My Children guy.
Yeah. And then, but you brought up wrestling. That was something that, I introduced her to. And,
did you?
Monday night,
we watched
our wrestling for a long time. So, just developing those interests, shared ritual connections, and then interest in what your spouse is doing that you may not be interested in goes a long way in developing admiration and fondness in that play area.
And dating.
Oh yeah, dating. That's number one on our list. You have to spend time together, one-on-one, without kids, without others. Now, we do a lot of couples dates, which is good. But the time that we spend alone goes so far towards helping us build that bond for each other.
Yep, and we're intentional about it. So we've talked about positivity breeds positivity. We talked about all work, no play, but we want you to play. And the third thing is we want to tell you is talk good to me and of me.
Okay.
So talk good to me.
I keep coming up with these last minute things.
It's okay. Go ahead.
And then I just forgot what I was going to say. Hold on,
give it to him.
Come back.
No, what I wanted to say is, when you said all work and no play, I wanted to touch on that because what happens is you really do get disconnected when you don't spend that quality time together. And what ends up happening, worst case scenario, is when you become empty nesters, you don't know the person. And that's why the divorce rate is so high now amongst empty nesters, because they put all their energy and effort into jobs, children, their children's activities and things that they forget about each other. So it is very important that you do have that time, that playtime where we're connecting and growing closer, because the opposite of it really just disconnects us.
Well, what's going on when the children's activities and these other things is the only thing that's keeping you together? What's really happening there?
You got to be creative, because that means you're putting your children's priority above yours. Now, don't get me wrong, because your children are very important, but your children need you too. So you got to be able to be creative and find a balance on how to not let this go. So that might mean that you might have to sacrifice in certain things, or like I said, find some time where you can be creative. I don't know if you can just take a lunch break, or you have to do something to create that connection.
Yeah, and if I'm hearing your question correctly, I think it's important to not have that false sense of security, because the children, their activities is the only thing that is keeping you together. What we have to do is we have to go back to the drawing board, and we have to reestablish that bond, that admiration and fondness, because that's what happened. It just gets transferred into the kids. A lot of times, people who are heavily involved in, their kids' sports and activities, that's where their first love and first heart is. So it's very important that you two, as a couple, y'all keep that fire going between the two of you.
Can I go to 3?
Yep.
Okay. So number 3 is be good to me. So what that means basically is a lot of times when we are getting rewarded because of what we do, what we produce, what we are bringing to the table, then it helps us to continue to be motivated, to continue the behavior. So that's why I say be good to me, by basically telling me things that I am doing that you appreciate, things that you see that is important, and then reward me. Reward me, because if you reward me, you're sharing with me that what I'm doing is
value. Yeah, rewards are wonderful in marriage.
Yeah, you can create your own rewards, huh?
That's right. But yeah,
go ahead.
I like what you said as far as being good and speaking good of your spouse. Mm-hmm. Because how often do you hear couples just tear each other down verbally, emotionally, and building each other up has such a drastic it can drastically improve how you look at each other, that fondness and admiration, when you are speaking positive into each other, when you are letting them know how much you appreciate the things that they do, or appreciate them as a whole and how they impact the relationship.
Right. Words are long lasting. What we say goes a long way. That mind.
It is. I like, the Bible talks about life and death, and it's in the power of the tongue. And a lot of times as spouses, when we have that wrong mindset, we are killing each other emotionally, day by day, with the negative words, with the hurtful words and things that we say, and it don't go away. It don't go away. And a lot of times when we reach that point, when the filter comes down, we say some of the things that cut our spouse so deep, it is very difficult to repair.
And God forbid, don't let something happen to your spouse and they lose their life. Then you are left with regret and you're left with hurt in regards to those words, because you can't get those words back.
Right.
And then you don't have an opportunity to even go back into reconcile and say, I'm sorry. So, what you say is very vitally important, especially when it comes to your spouse.
Yeah, it's important. It is important that we speak life. We speak positive into each other, even when there is challenge. There is always something good you can find in any scenario. One of the things we do with our couples, because counseling is challenging, and you go with we open up some old wounds a lot of times in counseling as a part of the healing process. So a lot of times at the end of the counseling session, we'll ask them, turn to your spouse. Now, tell them characteristics and things you see in them that will enable you guys to continue moving forward. And what we're doing is we're just doing a proactive thing to help them see, despite all that we've went through, there is still a lot of good and positive in you.
Yep. All right. So can we go on?
Yeah.
Okay. So another thing that you can do to nurture fondness and admiration is intimacy. Intimacy comes in all different shapes and forms. Physical, emotional. So intimacy is very important because this is when with your spouse, this is the time where you should be closest to where you can just be so transparent and vulnerable. When you're able to be vulnerable and to be in a mindset where this is where I am, this is how I feel, that also helps reinforce admiration and fondness. Admiration from the standpoint because the person who you have been transparent with feels admired because you are open enough to just reveal all to them and be naked to them. That lets them know that, man, you know what? You value my work as a husband or as a wife.
It's so interesting because, intimacy does come in different forms. And, of course, people think about intercourse or sex. That is, yes, it is. And that is the, one of the closest ways in which we can bond. But even outside of the bedroom, just affectionate touches, connecting, something as simple as just holding hands, while, you may be driving, holding hands in public, kisses. These things go a long way towards establishing that fondness and admiration. And it validates that I am fond of you, that I do admire you.
I was just going to add that public displays of affection is very important to a lot of people because it broadcasts to the world that you're in love and that you're together and that you belong with each other. And it's like a stamp of identity, I think. And everybody wants to have some way of being identified, belonging. And that's a very nonverbal way to show that you belong to someone. And a lot of people don't get that. The public display of affection. Like when I was in the military, I knew PDA was against the rules there.
Right.
If you saw a thread, because I got in trouble when I got a little demerit, as you will, pulled on me because there was a thread on my fellow airman's shirt, and he was out of uniform. as a result. So I went to pull the thread off, and my training instructor, or TI, said, Ross, get over here, and pulled one of these little slips out of my shirt. And I was like, what did I get a 341 for? And he said, public display of affection. And I didn't understand that. And I said, how did I get a PDA charge? And then he explained to me what that was. And so if it's that strong in the military, I can just imagine how important it is and what it means to a civilian in a relationship.
That's deep.
That's deep.
But yeah, that just goes to show you, like you said, the level of importance that it is and the connection that it draws you emotionally. Of course, in the service, you have to detach emotionally from things. So I understand, you getting reprimanded for that. But, in a relationship, the more the merrier. So, but it's interesting. I think about something as small as, it may be big to some people, but me and my wife, for example, we dress alike every day. And, but what that is doing, it goes a long way for establishing that we are one, that we do love each other, and we are connected, down to the shading of a particular color. So,
how much bail money do you have? Because I know when people see you all, I'm saying, I can't even get it out.
They say what, Dallas?
Yeah, I want to hear this.
No, when I was a child, right, my mom and dad would do what you all did. And I'm like, okay, I would just love once just to say, why are you wearing the same clothes? But then that's all the way down to the kids. The kids are wearing the same clothes as well. The entire family is wearing the same clothes. Okay.
Right, but you think about that.
Okay, the whole time I'm not with them. Okay.
Right, but that showed unity, as even from a family perspective. You think about family reunions. Everybody's got their T-shirt.
Right.
That's right.
Because we're representing our family as one. Yeah. And, just in our relationship, Cher talked about rewards. There is rewards that come with, dressing alike. And I don't mind.
You're smiling a little too much over
You
there.
know it. But it does send, it sends a message to people that we are one.
But you know what? Actually, what's really funny is a lot of people don't recognize it at first until they start seeing us. Then they start putting two together. Then they say, "Do you guys dress alike all the time?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's just what we do." But you know what? We find a lot of couples that see us dress alike. They model off the same behavior, and they start wearing the same colors or in the same shades. So it's something that sends a message to them that, wait a minute, they are one. They do show a united front, and that's important in a marriage. So, hey, it's just a step to help us to make sure that not only are we representing each other from a physical standpoint, but emotionally and mentally. We're sending a message that, hey, we are do or die. We are together in this. No one can come between this.
Yeah, one quick thing. You notice, too, like when we going out somewhere, we going to dance. Hey, get that red shirt out because we want to, we want to portray a certain look. And, you do feel better.
And it's not a thing to draw attention, right?
No.
Okay.
I'm not a attention-seeking type of person.
No, he's not an attention-seeking type of person. For me, it's just one of those elements in regards to showing that we're one and we are, in tune to each other, emotionally and physically.
When teenagers are dating, they like to wear the same thing. At least, let me say I did. I don't know what these kids do today.
Anything about Six Flags Day.
Exactly. Six Flags Day, right? And so when I got married, if my spouse was going to wear a certain suit or shirt and tie combination, I tried to make sure that I had something, one of those colors on.
Look at you.
And that's just because it is just making us look together. And I didn't want to clash because I'm thinking of us being together. So a lot of times it's some of those little subtle things that you do when you're a couple. Now, it's nothing wrong with it, but a lot of people, I don't know why they see it as a negative thing. And like you were saying, Dallas, it's not an attention thing. You asked about that. It has nothing to do with that.
I was only teasing about that.
Yeah, but it's more so for me, like you said, the connectivity.
Right. It
to
sends a
show
message
that
to the
you're
world.
one.
We are one. We are
Right.
together.
We are
Right.
together. So
Right.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but I will keep it real on one note. It is not attention seeking, but when we know that we're going to an event such as Representing Dynamic Marriage, we will do that as well, because when people come to us and say, hey, what does that mean? You know, it gives us the ability to explain what it is, to share information, especially if it's a couple, because Demetris and I really believe you so into people. We want to see marriages successful. So that gives us our opportunity to tell our story. And on top of telling our story, first and foremost, giving God the glory. And that will help a couple to say, oh, okay, that's interesting. And usually when they take our information, you know, shortly therefore after, they always come. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's you know, it's just like we were talking about, just connecting. We're talking about, you know, building fondness and admiration. And you know, when we're together, when we're connected, when we're we look like we're together, it does build that fondness. You know, you look back at some old pictures and you say, oh, look at that Six Flags picture. You know, it brings back positive memories.
Which is important. Because that's where it all stems from in order to maintain fondness and admiration. Because that's what we started off with. We talked about seasons, but that's what we started off with in regards to understanding that during that puppy love stage, that you have got to be aware that it is only temporary, and that's when you have to add those other components that we, you know, identified to maintain it, to keep it going.
Yeah, I think that's important. So, from a nurturing perspective, you know, I think the main thing is that willingness. You have to be willing to connect. You have to be willing to reconnect if you do find yourself going through a down period. And I think it's important that you are intentional about things that you're doing. A lot of times people, you know, they kind of balk at, you know, doing things, you know, that are planned. But if that's what it takes to recreate something that has been lost, then you should be more than willing to do it. And I think a lot of times we do a lot of things, me and her, intentionally, that will foster that opportunity to build more fondness. You know, we take trips, we do things purposely so that we can create an atmosphere to grow in our fondness for each other.
And big old smile.
I know when I'm hitting her in the emotional spot because she get quiet. Yeah.
And she's still quiet.
So, I like what you said about nurturing, because that's your willingness. Because a lot of times we have resistance. That's where you find those four horsemen that we talked about last week. The resistance causes contempt, criticism,
Defensiveness.
and stonewalling. So you really don't want to, you do really want to stay away from that so that you'll be able to be willing. Because when you're willing, then, you know, all it can do is make a relationship better.
Yeah, so, you know, just some key notes here. Be willing to forgive, humble to ask for forgiveness, and be willing to move forward, meaning be proactive. Because a lot of times people do get stuck and they can't proceed because of pride, anger, hurt, all of these different things. But like Cher said, and what God says, that there is nothing too hard for Him. thing I put in there, he's not going to violate anyone's will. But if you are willing, he's already there to do his part. He just needs you to be willing to die to yourself so that your marriage, your relationship can benefit from that.
Right, because you don't want to be a statistic. You don't want to be that. What you want to be able to do is carry out a legacy, because you have to realize it just doesn't start with you, but it carries on generation to generation, because your children are watching what you do.
Yes.
And because they're watching what you do, they learn those behaviors, and they take those thoughts, that culture you created as a husband and wife, and they carry it on, and they find a partner similar to what they see in the home.
That's exactly right. You know, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu says that children are little actors, and they act out what they see. And it's what they see, not what we see them saying. So a lot of times you don't realize how your children are really watching you, or how they're listening to you and mocking you. I remember that I had my dolls. I caught my mother and father in an argument, and I had my little dolls acting out the scene. And when they saw that, when I was playing, they didn't realize that I had seen or heard the argument, but I did. And they became more aware of that because of what I did, and they made sure I didn't see. I can't recall but that one argument.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is what started me. Because initially when I was in the counseling field, I started with children before I went over into marriage. But that is what was my determining factor to go into marriage. Because when I have children come in and we do play therapy, I would get the dollhouse out, and I wouldn't say anything to them. I would sit back and observe them, because they're just doing what comes natural to them. And so they would show me basically the in and outs of their household. And when they did, they always went first to that mom and dad. And the way they played it out, it told me a story. So that when I went back to mom and dad, I can say, you can't get mad because your child is acting out, or your child is doing this or that, or saying this or that. Because you know what? It comes down to they learned it from you. So, if you need to first, you need to first identify the problem, which is you. Correct that, so that you can make a constructive change for your child, so they can do something different and better.
You guys, we have about 5 more minutes left in your segment before you have to take off today. So if you would please, for our ears and faces, recap today's segment for us.
Okay, Dee said, Cher, you do that. So basically, what we wanted to give you was some nuggets on how to nurture fondness and admiration. So we talked to you about positivity, breeding positivity. So making sure that your mindset is right, that you're thinking on positive things that will contribute to your marriage. Then we talked about all work, no play. We want you to be able to play. We want you to be able to share interested ideas and spending time, dating, having fun together. We talked about intimacy, being able to be intimate on a emotional level and on a physical level. That's important. We also talked about being good to me and saying good things about me, because affirmation, what we say to our spouses, definitely will reinforce how we encourage and build admiration and fondness in our relationships. Did I miss anything?
No, very well said. Very well said.
All right.
Oh, I do want to say this too. You don't have to be a statistic. I'm serious. Gottman has, he does a lot of research on couples. If you're in a situation where there's not any admiration or fondness, that does not have to stay that way. We have couples that we've seen turn it around. You can turn it around. You just have to decide to do something different.
I like that. Be a committee of one. You be the best spouse that you can be. And a lot of times we are very reactive in our relationship, because I'm not giving, I'm not giving. Start sowing some seed of give in your relationship, and allow that to work through it.
You got a thumbs up on that.
All right.
All right. Dallas.
Well, there you have it. It is 16 after the hour. The first couple of counseling, Demetris and Cher Williams, they were in the studio today. They dropped the mic, as I like to say. And I wish my camera was still going, so I get a camera. But God is on your side, so we won't get that. But anyway, if you have any questions or comments and you'd like to get in touch with them personally, go to the Christian Psychological and Family Services. Google that on Google or Bing or whatever your search engine is. Or if you're here in these lovely cities of St. Louis, go to 9378 Olive Boulevard, Suite 106, St. Louis, Missouri, 63132. Or give them a call at 314-567-4994. The number again is 314-567-4994. That's going to do it for the 5:30 to 6:17 hour. We'll talk about next week before we get out of here.
What are we talking about next week?
Hey, everybody. So that's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us on my Facebook television stream, Discussions with Dallas, live with Ray J, right here at Ferguson, USA, HotTalkRadio.com. Good night.
Discussions with Dallas, live with Ray J.